This is Candor Talk. Thank you for tuning in. Let's get right into the show. But before we get into the show, don't forget to check out our website, sylviaexpress.com. All right, fabulous people. Thank you so much for tuning into Candor Talk. And anyway, so let me just get right into the show. Today, I'm going to be talking about the shit show that is going on in the White House because it is literally decomposing, as I put in one of my previous shows. The White House is basically decomposing. The imposter is basically decomposing, but the GOP are basically fleeing. So the thing is, what I've realized is that there's so many scandals that go on with the GOP and the Trump administration that it's impossible to keep up. However, this week there were so many things that happened that spelled doom for the GOP, and I'm definitely going to talk about them. So, for example, like Republicans are fleeing from re-election campaigns. Donald Trump Jr. is in deep shit. Republicans are losing faith in Trump. His base is shrinking. More Trump affiliates caught up in Russia scandal. And Roy Moore, who Trump endorsed after the fact, is accused of pedophilia. And Mike Flynn is in deep shit. All of that I'm going to talk about in this show. I have said to you guys for a while that Donald Trump's base was not vast, that people were overestimating what his base was, and that that the support from Republicans would start to fade. Those vocal and public Republicans would start to fade as he became much more of a disaster, and as they felt more comfortable when they saw the backlash from the public. And the thing is, people were overestimating so much stuff. And they thought that, okay, well, we can't really attack Donald Trump because if we attack Donald Trump, then his base is so vast, and that at least for the Republicans that continue to kiss his ass, his base is so vast, we can't actually attack him because if we do that, that's going to make them angry with us. They're going to turn on us, and then that's going to hurt our re-election campaigns or whatever Republican agenda that we have right now. So we have to support him. What they're realizing now is because of all these losses, and people that he's endorsing are going down in burning flames, they're realizing now that he's actually toxic for the party. So let me play this clip from Rick-Santorum, who basically was a Trump apologist for a long time and kind of still is, but who just couldn't take it anymore and finally had to say something. And here he is on CNN basically saying that Donald Trump's rhetoric is trash. Here it is.
The rhetoric of this president is the Twitter bombs and the thing. It is hurting him. Yep. It is hurting the Republican Party, and Republicans are telling him that. Democrat, everybody's telling him that. And tonight, the president needs to look at particularly these suburban districts where this type of rhetoric, this type of schoolboy kind of in your face doesn't go over well among college-educated suburban voters. It's not his agenda they don't like. They're for, I guarantee you, when they look at this tax bill, they're going to be for the tax bill that passes. They're going to be for the health reform that passes. But they're not going to countenance a president who continues to demean people in public. And that is just...
So what do you say? What do you say to the Steve Bannons of the world who encourage him to be that way, who encourage him to mine these cultural divides and to torque up his rhetoric?
I would say that I don't know if Steve Bannon is encouraging him to be as offensive as he can be and being the kind of bully he can be in these tweets. I think he is out there pushing very hard to defend the turf as far as the issues, whether it's immigration or whether it's trade or his views on national security. He's pushing on those issues. I don't think he's pushing the rhetoric per se. I think he's pushing the pushback to the media, clearly. And by the way, I don't think that's hurting him. I think him going after the media does not hurt him. No. I think it's the personal attacks and that edge that is just beneath the office of the president.
Okay, so that was Rick Santorum basically talking about Donald Trump's conduct is basically beneath the office of the president. And it's interesting because he called him a bully, which is something I've said for a long time. See, the one thing that you have to understand about Donald Trump is that he's the kind of person who'll talk all this smack about you on social media and, write things about you and try to get his base rallied up so they can go and start attacking you and doxing you and doing all this other stuff to you. But the truth is, Donald Trump, when he gets in front of your face, he's pretty much a coward. And that's a typical bully. And that's what he does. Like, he'll get up in front of your face. Like, literally, when he was debated by Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio, he almost shit his pants because they both were attacking him, and he literally was starting to backtrack on certain things. He gets in front of China, and he can't even still label them a currency manipulator, and he doesn't blame them for taking advantage of the United States. Like, he's such a complete, full-blown idiot. Okay, so, but then it's so funny because it's like, okay, so you guys are sitting there saying that all of a sudden now, and I'm not feeling sorry for Republicans whatsoever, because it's like, okay, I understand the fact that he's in atrocious disaster, but that's something we've been saying for a long time. You just now realize that he has these like schoolboy taunts and acts like a complete and total juvenile. You just now realizing that he was doing that the entire time on the campaign trail. So why is it now that you guys are realizing that he's just the complete disaster? You're just realizing that now only because of the fact that you took a shellacking on Tuesday. But the thing is, he's been doing these things for a long time. None of this is new. None of it. So it's just interesting that they're even having the nerve to say that. But they are literally, this is how they feel. Everyone's telling him that. That's what rick-santorum said. Everyone's telling him that. And one thing that wasn't happening before was people were not coming out and basically chastising him before that were Republicans. They just weren't doing it. And even still, you'll still see some of them that still try to come and defend him. Those are the loyalists, the sycophants, the completely absurd and obnoxious individuals who just have no ability to be independent. Like, individualism is something that's so far gone for them. Like, it's just so far away. Like, they don't have no idea what that is. But anyway, so that's rick-santorum. But then after that Tuesday situation, you even hear other Republicans who are actually really anti-Trump. They don't want to see him necessarily succeed, but they are Republicans, and they do want to see the Republican Party succeed. So I'm going to play another clip, which is from Joe Scarborough, which is talking about basically what happened, the elections on Tuesday. And he's talking about that and basically the ass kicking that the Republican Party took. So I'm going to play that right now.
They call these off-year races, but in Virginia, they always matter. 1993, George Allen's landslide victory replacing Doug Wilder. That led to Republicans in 1994, sort of foreshadowed them winning a huge landslide. 2009, Bob McDonnell's win. Another landslide win for a Republican a year after Barack Obama elected president, suggested that the Tea Party revolution was coming in 2010. But I think you have to go back to, and I wrote the date down here, January 19th, 2010, when Scott Brown won that special seat for Ted Kennedy, after Bob McDonnell was elected, to find one off-year election night that so shifted the landscape of American politics and the expectations of American politics, and suggested to the party in power that they were in trouble. And Mika, we can all look at Ed Gillespie's loss. We can look at what happened in Maine. We could look all across the country. But if you want a microcosm of what we've been talking about for years, about the Democratic Party's problems with losing 1,000 legislative seats nationwide, and saying their problem's not just with Hillary Clinton, their problem was much larger. Well, last night, Donald Trump can try to blame Ed Gillespie, a guy that he and Steve Bannon got behind big time.
Right.
You can blame Ed Gillespie all you want. Guess what? The real story here is what happened in the Virginia House of Delegates. It was a massive landslide all across the Commonwealth of Virginia. Nobody expected this. Even the smartest people in politics never saw this coming. This was a repudiation of Donald Trump that will be heard around Virginia, around the nation, and yes, around the world.
Yep.
The whole world is watching, and they all saw what happened in Virginia yesterday, and they may just believe that maybe some equilibrium is returning to American politics.
Yep. See, there it is. And that's exactly what my exact opinion was. Now, obviously, I didn't get into all the legislative seats that were lost by the Democrats, but nevertheless, that it was a repudiation of Donald Trump. That's something that I said previously on my previous show that I did, I think it was a couple days ago. That's what I said. It was a repudiation of Donald Trump. It was a rebuke of Trumpism and Trump's style of politics and everything else. And that's not a good thing, because the one thing he had going for him was this myth, this perception that he was insulated from consequences, that people would vote for him regardless, and that the 2016 election was a landslide, and this is the reason why he, should be the person that you listen to consistently, whatever. All this ridiculous nonsense, and none of that was actually factually based, because the truth is, if you saw what happened with this previous election, you realize that people were outraged. And the thing is, I have to say about the 2016 election, what I think happened with the 2016 election was that more people went out and voted against people than they did for people. I also think people did stay home that were Hillary supporters or that were Democrats and said, I don't really need to go vote. Or if they didn't vote, they're like, it doesn't matter, she's going to win anyway. I think that also happened. And that's why I think that right after he was inaugurated, you see the Women's March where there's like millions of people protesting. And you're like, okay, yeah, because most women did not want this. And this is not what we wanted at all. We did not want this at all. So I do think that there was this myth that he had this really great growing base and that things were so great and that they had to continue to kiss his ass. And now they're realizing, no, we don't, because what happened in Virginia and all around the country lets us all know that the country is not having you at all. They do not like you. Listen to me, Donald Trump. They do not like you. That was a repudiation of you. Okay, so another thing that's happened is that Republicans are literally fleeing from re-election campaigns. They don't want to go back and have the legislature because this has been such a shit show. They're like, okay, you know what? No way am I going back. Now, let me just read to you real quickly. There was an article on Axios, and it said there are at least 14 departing Republicans. I heard today that there's actually 25, and more have actually said, okay, that's it, I'm out. Like, I just, this bullshit, I can't do it anymore. I'm out. I'm gone. So basically, we have Bob Godlett from Virginia. We have Ted Poe of Texas. We have Frank Lobiondo of New Jersey. We have Lamar Smith of Texas. We have Jeb Hensarling of Texas. We have Pat Tiberi of Ohio. Tim Murphy of Pennsylvania. Dave Trott of Michigan. Charlie Dent of Pennsylvania. Dave Reichenhardt of Washington. John J. Duncan Jr. of Tennessee. Ileana Ross Lahintinen of Florida. Lynn Jenkins of Arkansas. Sam Johnson of Texas. Okay, so people are basically fleeing the Republican Party right now, and they're fleeing like legislative responsibilities or running for re-election. And the reason why is because of this shit show in the White House, because of this imposter in the White House. He has brought down the Republican Party so badly where people are legitimately not even trying to stay and even try to fight. They're like, you know what? No, I'm not going to even do this. This is such a joke. And honestly, they're fleeing more at a greater rate than they even fled over the last 5 election cycles. That's what part of the article says in Axios. So that should just tell you right now how bad things are going. And part of it too is just cowardice. I just have to say that. Like, people that are leaving and running from it, part of it is cowardice because they're afraid to actually have to stand up to Donald Trump, and they're afraid of what could possibly happen if they do, and that their base would, basically not come out and vote for them, so they would lose anyway. So they would probably, so they're like, I'm going to just run from this problem. I'm going to get out, go in the private sector. It's safer, whatever. So part of that is cowardice. But there are also some who I think, are doing it because of the fact that they want to be able to speak out against him. They want to be able to try to create some normalcy again back into that legislative body. And they want to be able to exert their own independence from the imposter in the White House. So some of them, I think that they're actually doing this because they're like, no, I'm going to start standing up to this guy, because this is an imposter. This is a fraud. This is a guy that's completely unhinged, erratic. He's inept. We can go on and on about all the problems that have to do with this guy. So that's why I think that some of them are actually deciding to retire. So they're fleeing, which is not good for Donald Trump. Okay. It's interesting because I'm always wondering whether or not I should call Donald Trump Jr. Fredo or whether I should call Eric Trump Fredo, because Donald Trump Jr. is in a world of shit. Okay, I'm going to play this clip real quickly that explains basically what's going on with Donald Trump Jr., and then I'll talk about it after the clip. Okay, here it is.
On June 9th, 2016, Donald Trump Jr. met with Russian attorney Natalia Veselnitskaya in a meeting that has become one of the central focuses of the entire Trump-Russia collusion story. And while the Trump administration kind of spoke for Jr. and tried to cover it all up, saying it was about adoption, we didn't really know what for sure happened, we now have a much clearer picture of what actually took place in that meeting, because that attorney, Natalia Veselnitskaya, gave a recent interview of about 2.5 hours long where she laid out exactly what Donald Trump wanted from the Russians and what he was willing to give the Russians in exchange for that particular information. According to Veselnitskaya, Donald Trump offered to, if Trump got elected, relook at some of the more anti-Russia laws that the United States had passed over the years. Part of that actually included the forthcoming Russian sanctions. In exchange, according to Veselnitskaya, Trump Jr. wanted to get his hands on financial documents showing that Hillary Clinton was accepting money from people who were a little bit more shady than usual, even though those same people actually gave a lot of money, hundreds of thousands, to Republicans as well. So basically, according to what Veselnitskaya is telling us here, is that Donald Trump attempted to bribe the Russians during this meeting by saying, if you give me what I want, I'm going to make sure that this happens for you.
Okay, so, wow. Yeah, Donald Trump Jr. is in deep shit. And let me just tell you, from a legal perspective, why he's in a lot of trouble. Now, this is the thing. It is a federal crime to exchange an official act for something of value. It's called theft of honest services. It's not just a federal crime. It's also a state crime to do what Donald Trump Jr. did. So, for example, let me read to you what is New York Penal Code 200.50. It says a public servant or a party officer is guilty of bribe receiving for public office when he solicits, accepts, or agrees to accept any money or other property from another person upon an agreement or understanding that some person will or may be appointed to a public office or designated or nominated as a candidate for public office. Bribe receiving for public office is a Class D felony. Okay, so this is the reason why Don Jr. is in a lot of trouble. I don't know if I should call him Fredo Jr. I'm going to call him Fredo Jr. Fredo Jr. because they have Fredo, and then there's Fredo, which is Eric Trump, and then there's Fredo Jr. Okay, I'm going to call him Fredo Jr. Fredo Jr. is basically in trouble because Fredo Jr. was basically offering the Russians to basically get rid of the Majinsky Act, basically, which it just punishes Russians for actually, which had something to do with somebody named Majinsky actually getting murdered. But anyway, they basically said they were going to revisit that and revisit the sanctions. First of all, Don Jr. had no authority to have done that while President Obama was still in office. But nevertheless, that's something for another day. But also the fact that he was trying to offer a foreign national, basically something of value in exchange for changing basically policy of the United States, that is a crime. So basically what's being said right now is that Fredo Jr. is also under investigation under Mueller, which I already knew he was under investigation, which is so absolutely obvious that he was under investigation because Fredo is just as stupid as his father. He's just so dumb, and he will not stop tweeting. He tweets consistently, and I'm like, if this guy does not shut up, he's literally going to dig his own retirement. Quick retirement. Like, you're going to get retired to the Rikers Island. Like, I don't even know if Rikers is even still open, but you're going to get retired to some kind of penitentiary somewhere. So you just need to shut your mouth. Literally, shut it up. Okay, so that was Don Jr. Oh, and by the way, that clip that I played was from The Ring of Fire. It's actually a really good progressive show. I'm going to have the link in the description box, too, if you want to listen to the entire show. But it's actually really good. I just want to make sure that I give a shout-out to them because they're actually really, really good, and I love listening to the stuff that they talk about. Okay, so anyway, moving on along. Oh, boy, though. Michael Flynn? I've been saying for a long time that Michael Flynn was in deep shit and that Michael Flynn was most likely going to get indicted. And now it's seeming like it's much more plausible that he's going to get indicted. The thing that I did not anticipate was that Michael Flynn's son, Michael Flynn Jr., what's up with all these stupid juniors, right? Like Donald Trump Jr., Fredo Jr. is stupid. And then here's Michael Flynn Jr., I don't know what to call him. Fredo Jr. Part 2? I don't know. Anyway, what's up with these juniors that are so dumb? Anyway, so Michael Flynn Jr.'s son is also in trouble as well. I'm going to play this clip real quickly that gives you some context about what's going on with the Michael Flynn situation, and then I'll talk about it in a minute.
And bring in Ken Delaney, our national security reporter from NBC News. Ken, what have you got?
Good morning, Joy. Well, I have some exclusive new reporting from my colleagues Carol Lee and Julia Ainsley. NBC News has learned that special counsel Robert Mueller has enough evidence to bring charges in his investigation of former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn and his son. And we're reporting that the special counsel is looking into Mike Flynn's activities on behalf of the government of Turkey and examining the question of whether he took official action while he was National Security Advisor to facilitate the extradition of an opponent to the Turkish president, a cleric named Fethullah Gulen, who lives in the United States, Joy.
All right, Ken Delaney, and thank you very much for that breaking news. So exclusive reporting here from NBC News that the special counsel has announced that he now has enough evidence to indict not just Michael Flynn, but Michael Flynn Jr., his son, who briefly worked at the White House.
Okay, so look at that. Okay, so it was actually one of the predictions that I made for a while that Michael Flynn was going to get indicted. I think he's already been indicted. I don't think that Mueller is waiting to indict him. I think Mueller has already indicted him, and Mueller is just waiting to see if he can get him to flip and see what he can get from him. But the media basically broke the story, so he's going to leave it there because Mueller's not the one that's leaking. I'm telling you guys right now, it's not Mueller that's leaking. It's more likely that the defense is leaking or whatever. But the thing is, this is part of what he's being accused. He's being accused of recruited basically by Turkey, offering him $15 million basically to bring this clerk back, which probably led to the guy's execution. But that's actually circumventing the United States completely by doing that. You're negotiating with a foreign power, which who the fuck gave you the authority to do that? And you're negotiating with a foreign power, and you basically negotiate for someone else's demise, which would have been the United States returning this guy to Turkey to get killed. Like, literally, this guy is in so much trouble. He's in a lot of trouble anyway because he failed to register as a foreign agent. He lied on his disclosure forms. I mean, he's in so much trouble as it is. But this part of the story is going to land him in jail probably for a very, very long time. So watch out for that because I don't know if indictments will be this week or next week or week after that. I already think he's been indicted. I don't believe that they're going to indict him. I think he's already been indicted. But even if he hasn't been, he's going to be. So that is another thing that is a bombshell and disaster for the Trump administration. The Russia investigation is exploding. Like, so for example, right now they're basically saying at least 9 people in the Trump orbit have been affiliated with Russia. So this is the thing. That's not normal. Like, name the campaign where you have like 9 people that were affiliated with Russia, and Russia is being accused of undermining the United States elections. And this is the thing. This buffoon goes in and has a conversation with Putin while he's overseas right now. And thank God he's overseas because it's been a lot calmer in the United States of America. Besides all the scandals that keep breaking out among the GOP, like the pedophilia of Roy Moore. But nevertheless, anyway. So, okay. So he goes and starts talking to Putin. And basically in his conversation with Putin, he basically says, he comes back and he says, I really believe Putin. I don't think Putin did it. I really don't think Putin did it. I just don't think it. Look at 17 intelligence agencies, you buffoon. You're the president of the United States. Like, you don't recognize that what you're doing is undermining the people that work under you? And they're sacrificing their lives to protect this country. You're over there believing Putin, a foreign adversarial government, literally the guy that legitimately will just destroy you and is using you and playing you like a chump because you're so weak to be liked by world leaders that you're like, I don't think Putin did it. I don't think Putin did it. You know, the reason why you don't think Putin did it is because you know that you did it. You know that you were a part of it. So you have to protect Putin and act like you're doing this really gracious inquiry to see whether or not it was true or not. But we all know that you were part of it. Cut the charade. Nobody's buying it anymore. It's such bullshit. But you are so stupid to do that because 9 people in your orbit are being affiliated with Putin. So how are you going to escape that now by basically sucking up to Putin and kissing Putin's ass? That's pretty stupid of you to do that. But that's the imposter in the White House because he's such a buffoon and baboon. Okay, so that's one situation that's really, really bad because now it's 9 people in his orbit. It's just going to keep expanding. It's going to get very, very difficult for him to say that he had absolutely nothing to do with it, and that he didn't know anything about it. I mean, it's getting further and further difficult as more and more revelations come out, and as more and more people are looking like they're going to get indicted. People are speculating all over the place about how many indictments are out there. Does he have actually more than 10, or does he only have more than 4? Does he have more than 15, whatever? Like, we have no idea literally how many sealed indictments are out there right now. We're all just speculating. But my belief is that Michael Flynn has been indicted. I believe there's other people that have been indicted. I think there's at least 3 or 4 other people that have been indicted. I'm comfortable saying that. I'm not going to change my opinion on that. And the reason why I'm saying that is based on all the evidence that I have seen and my own personal experience as an attorney. I just believe that there are more indictments out there. But for this baboon to go out into Russia and basically try to act as though it's okay what Putin did because he didn't do it, we didn't think he did it, is a disaster. Like, this guy is asking to get impeached. I don't even understand it. Like, he's so stupid as a person, but that is his problem. That is not our problem anymore. I'm no longer going to worry about this guy, literally, in terms of, like, talking about how he should be or should not be. He's already a buffoon. We know he's a buffoon. He's never going to change. That's just the way it is. But the problem is that he's so stupid enough to get himself to basically make himself look much more culpable than he would have looked before. And now that you're saying that Putin did it after 17 intelligence agencies, you really shouldn't be the president of the United States because you're not protecting the United States of America. You just simply are not. You're basically betraying the United States of America. It's simply treason what you're doing right now. So anyway, then there was Wilbur-Ross. He's like another little Keebler elf in the Trump administration. A little Keebler elf, you know, kind of like a little Jeff Sessions. But he's a Secretary of Commerce. He got caught up too, failing to disclose some of his Russia connections, Russia business connections, and Russia ties. He's basically trying to act like it's all fake news, and none of this is really real, and they're just making up stories. But the problem is, it's looking like it was like the Paris Papers. It's looking like you might have contributed to money laundering. If that's true, you're going to get indicted, and you are most likely going to go to jail too. That's another person in Donald Trump's orbit. Nobody in Donald Trump's orbit can stay away from Russia. what is it about Russia? Is Russia like a magnet? But nevertheless, here's Wilbur-Ross. Couldn't keep his hands out of the Russia cookie jar, and now he's in a lot of trouble as well. Then another story dropped about this guy named Felix Sater, who's basically a Russian-born individual who basically was working. He's a business guy in Russia. He basically was working with Russia, Putin, basically to try to help Donald Trump get elected, but also to do some business deals in Russia. And basically what he came out with and said recently that he was one of the people who basically predicted that Putin would help Trump get elected. And then he's later predicting that him and Trump are going to go to jail. That's what he's basically predicting now. That's what GQ basically released this week. That Felix Sater is basically predicting, even though he helped Donald Trump get elected to president, or he's predicting that that even though he did that, that him and Donald Trump are going to be going to prison. And you know what? I don't know if Donald Trump's going to be going to prison. I just know he's going to be getting the hell out of the White House. That's my prediction, and I have stayed firm on that. I am staking myself, my reputation, everything on that. That's my belief. I believe that he's going to either be impeached, resign, or they're going to invoke the 25th Amendment. And then finally, we have the Roy Moore situation, which I talk about in greater detail in my previous show. So I'm not going to talk about it too deeply right now, but let me just tell you real quickly. This is a disaster for the imposter in the White House because he actually did endorse Roy Moore after the fact. After Roy Moore won the Alabama primary, Donald Trump endorsed Roy Moore and even invited him to come to the White House and sit down, let's talk, and let's get to know each other, etc. Steve Bannon has been pushing him for a long time, and everybody knows the affiliation between Steve Bannon and Donald Trump. So it's very difficult for them to pretend as though that they did not support an alleged pedophile. And the thing is, I said admitted pedophile on my show yesterday, and I don't know why I said alleged just now, because he admitted that he had relationships with young girls. I mean, I don't know any other way to say that when he was in his 30s. So that's pedophilia. And so that's an admission of pedophilia. So the thing is, the Republicans right now are in a crisis. Okay, Donald Trump is also in a crisis because he's already previously been accused of sexual assault. So it's not cool that you're continuing to support a sexual predator. And the problem is that you were also accused, Donald Trump, of actually trying to basically sexually assault a 14-year-old or a minor as well. So you're not legitimately, any more morally, respectable at all. Like, not at all. So the thing is, but you're trying to rebuild your brand with your shrinking base that you have right now, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, because there was actually an article that came out about a shrinking base, which I've been saying for a long time. They're fleeing like the plague. And that's why if you go check SylviaExpress.com, you'll see the new Trump regrets. You'll either see the ones from Monday or the ones I'm going to post on Monday. So don't forget to check SylviaExpress.com. Anyway, his base is basically shrinking. And the one thing is that, so basically he's right now, off of the shrinking basis. So anyway, the thing is right now is that Roy Moore, basically the Republican Party right now, is they're in a huge dilemma because Donald Trump also endorsed him. So did so many other Republicans, even though some of them are retracting their endorsements now because they should. They're shameless if they don't. But anyway, he's in, the endorsement of Roy Moore is the worst thing that could happen to Donald Trump, especially somebody who's already has a base that's like literally disintegrating. So the thing is, and Roy Moore right now is going to come and he's going to cause hell in the Senate if they seat him at all. But let's just be clear here for the record, if anybody who did not listen to my show yesterday, the truth is Roy Moore is being accused of having sexual relationships, not necessarily penetration, but sexual relationships, intimacy with young girls, teenage girls, when he was in his 30s, a grown-ass man that was having a relationship with young girls. I don't understand how anybody can say that that's not pedophilia. That is pedophilia. And if you hear the stories from these girls, they're well-sourced. The truth is, he did it. He went on Hannity and basically humiliated himself and legitimately admitted to a lot of this. And so there is no dispute anymore as to whether or not he is a pedophile. And this is somebody Donald Trump has supported. So good luck, Republicans, because if you think you're going to get these suburban mothers or even urban mothers or rural mothers who are going to come out and vote for you when they think that you're supporting a pedophile, except for maybe the people in the state of Alabama, good luck, because you guys are toast. And then there's another thing that's going on is Donald Trump's sinking base. I've been telling you, it's shrinking. Sinking too, I should say, because if you're still sitting around with him, woo. Anyway, so the shrinking base. Okay, I've been saying for a long time that his base is not vast. And people have asked me too, like, where's the proof of that? I've put out Trump regrets. People don't believe that. And so the thing is, now there's an article because they've actually done the numbers. And let me read to you what the article says. Okay, so there's an article in The Hill. And basically the title of the article is The Incredible Shrinking Base. That's exactly what the title of the article is in The Hill. But it says, the latest polls show that Trump and his core political advisors who celebrate how well he is doing with his base are wrong. His base is shrinking every week, every month. This is something I've been saying consistently, that his base is literally evaporating. Okay, and here's some more of what they said. They said Donald Trump could lie to himself and everyone else that this wasn't a personal repudiation of his presidency. But alternative facts won't work here. Turnout among Trump-based supporters was down. The results are consistent with the recent national job approval ratings in the Gallup and the Washington Post ABC polls published several days ago. Trump had 33% job approval in Gallup and 37% approval in the Post ABC poll, the lowest approval rating for any president after 1 year since modern polling was invented some 7 decades ago. Notably, bad news for Trump and congressional Republicans in 2018. Self-identified political independents who now constitute, according to most polls, a plurality of voters in this country, disapprove of Trump's job performance, 66% and 33%, a minus 33%, dangerous gap among the very swing voters who almost always decide close general elections. Okay, that's part of what the article says. And then let me read you some more. Okay, so it says, but worse news for Trump is his unmistakable substantial shrinkage of support among base core voters, i.e. Republicans, conservatives, rural, and white working class voters lacking a college degree. These are supporters that Trump once described as so loyal to him that he could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue in NYC and shoot someone and they would still stick with him. Among these Trump-based voters, the results show a steady decline in support. Disapproving of Trump's job performance after 1 year are approximately 1 out of 5 Republicans, more than 3 out of 10 conservatives and white men, almost 4 out of 10 white men without college degrees, as well as voters with high school educations or less, and about 1/2 of voters in the South, Trump's strongest 2016 voting region. Okay, so like I said, this guy is hemorrhaging support. That is why I said, look, sir, you have a choice. You should resign. Get out of it. You don't like it anyway. You're terrible at it. You're doing a horrific job. And the con is basically getting exposed. Why would you continue to do this to yourself? Get out of it. Anyway, guys, I'm going to take a quick break. And then I'm going to come back and try to wrap this up real quickly. Because I'm trying my best not to go to at least 45 minutes or an hour or whatever on shows. I'm trying to just condense them. But so much is going on. So I wanted to make sure I told you guys everything that I thought was important this week. All right, I'm going to take a break. I'll be right back. All right, guys, I'm back. Okay, so the thing is, let me just say something because I wanted to say something else in the previous segment. I wanted to say something like I have said that 1 of 3 things are going to happen. I say it all the time, and I think I repeat it ad nauseum. I think I've said it enough. Not that I've said it enough. I'm going to say it more times. Okay, but anyway, so the thing is, the truth is, I mean, just look at what's happening right now. This is literally a disintegration. I mean, this guy is literally imploding. Everything is going wrong for him around him. His own kid is literally under investigation now for what could possibly cause him jail time, prison time. Not just jail time, prison time. Okay, this is not one of the things you can just get out of it. And the problem is, it's also a state crime. So his father cannot pardon him. So if the New York State decides to take this up, and they try to prosecute him and he's convicted, he's going to prison. So things are just basically imploding around the imposter in the White House. The reality is, like I've said before, the worst thing he ever did was run for president. That was the worst thing he ever did, worst decision he ever made. He would have gone through life, continued to con his way through stuff, but he wouldn't have been on anybody's radar. Same thing with Michael Flynn. Like, Michael Flynn would have been, conning and doing stuff, but people probably wouldn't have gone after him because he was a reputable, at least allegedly a reputable, military man, etc. But the minute he decided to run with Donald Trump, he started to get investigated and things started coming out and it just became a disaster. So the thing is, that was the worst decision he ever made. So now you're seeing things basically implode around him. And everyone's imploding basically, and then he's also imploding, and so everything is a disaster right now. Republicans are in a disastrous situation right now, and that's not our problem. Our problem is just trying to make sure we get our country back and get rid of this imposter in the White House. So anyway, that I just need to make sure I summarized why I feel like he's just running out of time. Like, he's literally losing a lot right now. He's losing his base. He's losing support from Republicans. Those that were even sycophants, they're running from him. So just be watching out because it's going to be pretty interesting soon. Okay, so I want to talk about something real quickly because I've talked about it before, and I said I wasn't going to stop talking about it. And for some reason, for the last couple of shows, I haven't talked about it, but I want to talk about it. Gun control. Look at the mass casualties that we've had recently with guns. And let me just say something to all those people who try to minimize the severity of what we're talking about when we talk about gun control. When they say, okay, well, what about the guy with the truck? He killed 8 people, or 9 people, whatever. He killed that many people. Are we going to ban trucks now? That's just such a stupid argument. I've said that before because trucks were not designed to kill people. Trucks were designed for transportation purposes and to move things around. They were not designed for you to kill people. And majority of the people who are dying per year are not dying because someone ran a truck into somebody. So yes, certain things, everything can be used as a weapon. You can pretty much find anything to use as a weapon. We're not going to ban every single thing. The one thing that we can guarantee that will do colossal damage if it hits a target is a gun. So let's just stop pretending like there's even an equivalency here. Like, it's just a false equivalency. And so, anyway, so that's, but we just had another mass casualty too, where it was like 25 people were killed inside of a church. Like, I mean, come on. The guy came in there and just started shooting people inside of a church that were praying. This is not the first time people have been killed inside of a church either. I mean, I don't know how sick you have to be able to go into a church and kill people, but nevertheless, people were killed. So when are we going to talk about gun control? Because every single time they say, it's not a good time to talk about it now. We're in the middle of a crisis. We're in the middle of a tragedy. Don't talk about it. Don't politicize it. Okay, so then we let weeks go by and no one's still talking about it. And then we let more weeks go by, then another one happens. And then we start saying, it's not a good time to talk about it now. Let's just wait until the tragedy's over. And they keep on pushing it off so they never have to talk about it. We need to force them to have to talk about it. We need to force our congressional leaders to have to talk about it. We need to force the president of the United States to open his mouth, since he can talk about everything else. When it's a Muslim, you're willing to say so many different things, but the minute it is not a Muslim person, you can't politicize it. You have nothing to say but thoughts and prayers, but you're not going to do anything about it because you think it's not guns. And thank God the one person also had a gun too, because then they were able to stop the person from killing. Instead of they killing 25, it could have been 50. Okay, like 25 is not enough people to get killed. I mean, so the thing is, and it's like these gun enthusiasts are, look, no one's trying to take your guns. What we're saying is that we don't need this many guns. We don't need certain people to have guns. So we need to make sure that we continue to fight for this particular issue because it is a very important issue. And people have actually died as a result of all this gun violence. The United States has over 38,000 gun deaths a year. That's atrocious. No other industrialized country is even remotely close to that. You have places like Japan who had 6 gun deaths last year or something like that. Like, literally. And when you say that, okay, the other person also had a gun, so they were able to save lives. That's what I was going to talk about a few seconds ago. When you say that, do you understand how completely ridiculous, ignorant you sound? The truth is, if nobody had a gun, nobody would have to shoot guns. And no one would have to worry about shooting a gun to kill anybody except for the police and, military personnel. Those are the only people who really need to have a gun walking around the streets. People should be able to have guns in their own home to protect their own home. I have no dispute about that. Go use guns to go hunting. But people do not need to just be walking around in normal neighborhoods and around the streets with guns on their back to what? Intimidate everybody? There's no logical reason for that, okay? And what? So you can scare people all day long to see you have guns? There's no reason to do that. We don't need to be obnoxious with it. When 25 people get killed and murdered in a church, and you claim that you're a Christian person, I'm a Christian loving, gun toting, whatever, you claim all these things, but when 25 people get killed in a church, you have nothing to say? You don't want to take on the NRA because the NRA is too powerful? Are you kidding me? This is a joke. We need to stop being a joke as a country in terms of this. This is an issue that we need to take up as a crisis. It's a crisis. It is a national crisis, and we need to do something about it immediately. And God rest the souls of all those people who died inside of a church. It's just horrific that someone could think to do it. What a mad, sick, freaking idiot. What a bastard to do that. It's just ridiculous, and I'm so sad about that. But the most important issue is to preserve lives and to save people. We've got to do something about this, and that means we need to make sure our leaders are doing something about this, because gun control now, gun control yesterday, gun control tomorrow. I'll be right back. Okay, fabulous people. All right, I'm done for today. I said I was going to go 45 minutes, but I'm probably going to go 45 minutes because whenever I say I'm done, you can pretty much count like at least another 60 seconds. That's just how much I talk. I talk so much, and I love to talk. I don't know why. I just do. I love it. Okay, but I love talking about politics, and I love talking about like issues that I think are important, and I just love to talk about them. But anyway, nevertheless, thank you so much for tuning in again. I appreciate every single person who listens to the show because it just makes me feel good that people actually are listening to the show. These are just my expressions and my views on every single thing, but I try to back it up with factual context so that people don't think that I'm just making up things as I'm going along, which I don't like to make up things. I'm not like a conspiracist or any of those kind of like loonies that are over there like the InfoWars and stuff like that. I don't do that. Nevertheless, but I do think that liberalism is cool, and I think that it has an edge, and it's not like, like this cultural war where people try to act like liberalism is just a bunch of crybabies and we're not tough and we don't talk tough and whatever else. No, that's not true. If you listen to my show, you can tell that I'm not a little weakling at all, and I will take on any particular issue if I feel like I need to take it on. And so I want people to understand that liberalism is actually a cool thing. Anyway, don't forget to go to sylviaexpress.com and check it out this week because I'm going to post some more Trump regrets. I also post articles on what's called blasting news, but I keep forgetting to post them on my blog because I just don't have the time to do all these things all the time. But anyway, so don't forget to go to sylviaexpress.com. And also pay attention to this week and see if there are going to be any indictments. I don't know. There might be some. Who knows? I mean, we don't know. But all I know is that there are going to be more indictments you're going to hear about. So just pay close attention. And just continue to sit back and watch the shit show as the imposter in the White House implodes. And until then, I will see you guys at the next show. And thank you so much for tuning in again. And Candor Talk, I'm signing out. Have a good one.